The air in this room still feels heavy with a silence that began on a night I can never forget. My name is Amanda. And this is the story of how a single, fragile moment shattered my entire world into dust. It is the confession of a heart that still bleeds from its own betrayal. You see, I lived inside a beautiful, quiet loneliness. I lived in a house where the walls echoed with the absence of my husband, a good man, a kind man, named Mark. His work was a demanding lover, one that constantly stole him away from me, leaving behind only the ghost of his cologne and the aching hollow of our bed. I would wander through our perfect, spotless rooms, a ghost in my own life, listening to the relentless tick-tock of a clock that seemed to measure only my growing isolation. The space around me felt less like a home, and more like a beautifully decorated tomb for the woman I used to be. Then, the phone rang. It was his voice, but it was not his voice, it was David's. Mark's brother. Where Mark was steady, David was a summer storm, wild and unpredictable and full of chaotic life. He asked for shelter, for just a few nights, and my lonely heart, my foolish, aching heart, said yes. I told myself it was just family, just kindness. But his presence, it flooded my empty house with noise, with laughter, with the terrifying warmth of human connection. The smell of a shared meal, the sound of a real voice in the stillness, it was a drug for my starved soul. We sat too close on the sofa that night, the glow of the television painting shadows on his face, a face so like my husband's, and yet so utterly different. The air between us grew thick and charged, a current of something forbidden and electric. And in that suspended second, I felt a loneliness so profound, so desperate, it screamed louder than my conscience. His hand touched mine. His words were soft velvet against my raw spirit. And I let the moment swallow me whole. I sacrificed everything, my vows, my integrity, my future, on the altar of a single, desperate need to feel seen. What happened next lives in my body as a sickness. A physical memory that churns my stomach and haunts my dreams. The details are not important, only the aftermath, only the devastating sunrise that revealed the ruins of my life. I woke to the cruel, cheerful light of morning, and the horrifying weight of truth pressed down on my chest. I could not breathe. The shame was a taste, metallic and sour, on my tongue. I looked at David, and saw my own ruin reflected in his worried eyes. He left quickly, the ghost of our mistake lingering in the empty space he left behind. And I scrubbed. I scrubbed the house, the sheets, my skin, until it was raw, trying to erase the sin from the surfaces, knowing it was forever etched on my soul. Then Mark called, his voice a sweet, trusting balm from across the ocean. Every word from his lips was a shard of glass in my heart. And I lied. I wrapped my sin in a pretty, peaceful lie and offered it to him. For weeks, I lived inside that lie. I smiled with a painted-on happiness, I kissed my husband with lips that felt like traitors, I held his hand with fingers that burned with guilt. I became a museum of my former self, a careful replica of the woman he loved, while inside, I was rotting. Then, a new truth began to grow inside me. A sickness that was not guilt, a tiredness that was not grief. I stood in a drugstore aisle, holding a box that held my fate, my hands trembling so violently I could barely hold it. And those 3 minutes of waiting, they were an eternity in hell. The 2 blue lines appeared, not as a promise, but as a death sentence. A life, conceived in betrayal. A child, who would be a living, breathing monument to my one terrible night. The math was merciless, the timeline a condemning judge. This was not Mark's child. This was David's. I collapsed onto the cold bathroom tiles, the world spinning, my breath coming in ragged, useless gasps. I was carrying my husband's brother's baby. The horror of it, the sheer, impossible wrongness, echoed through the empty house. I was trapped in a cage of my own making, with no door that didn't lead to destruction. To tell the truth was to detonate my world. To keep the secret was to become a prison warden of my own soul, forever. I carried this bomb inside me for days, watching Mark, this good, decent man, move through our life in blissful ignorance. And then, he came home with flowers, with a smile that could have lit a city. A promotion. No more travel. He spoke of a family, of a future, of our baby. His joy was the final, crushing blow. The secret erupted from me then, a torrent of tears and confession that I could no longer contain. I watched the light in his eyes die. I watched his love for me transform, right in front of me, into something shattered and cold. The word David hung in the air between us, a poisonous, unthinkable word. His brother. His own blood. The betrayal was not one layer, it was 1,000. His rage was a silent, terrifying storm, and then it was a scream, a shattered vase, a command that tore my life in two. Get out. I ran, into a rain-soaked night that felt like the world itself was weeping. I had nowhere to go, and a life growing inside me that felt like a punishment. In the end, I had only my mother, her own heartbreak for me a quiet, steady shelter. Mark's divorce papers were swift and final, a sterile end to what was once a living, breathing love. And David, when I told him, his silence was its own answer. He vanished, leaving me alone with the consequences of a mistake we made together. So, I was alone. Truly, utterly, alone. Until she came. My daughter, born from darkness, but herself pure light. I named her Hope, because she was all I had left to hold on to. Her tiny fingers, her blue eyes that held the ghost of a family I destroyed, they became my reason to breathe. The life I have now is etched in fatigue and worry. I wipe tables, I count tips, I sing lullabies in a small apartment that echoes with the dreams I forfeited. I have seen pictures of Mark, moving on, smiling with someone new. The pain of it is a physical ache, a deserved and constant reminder. But I look at my daughter, at Hope, and I see not just the mistake, but the redemption. She is innocent. She is beautiful. She is mine. I learned that loneliness, that deep, hollow ache, it is not an excuse. It is a warning sign, a cry from your soul to mend what is broken, not to burn it all down. Cheating is not a moment of passion. It is the first lie, and then the 1,000 lies that come after to protect it. It is living in a house of mirrors where every reflection is a distortion. You cannot hide the truth, because the truth becomes a child, or a silence, or a ghost that walks the halls of your life forever. I walk in the light now, a hard, steep light. My hands are rough, my back aches, my future is a narrow path. But it is true. When my daughter asks for her father, my heart cracks anew. One day, I will tell her a story of weakness and consequence, and a love for her that survived it all. If you hear nothing else, hear this. If you are lonely, speak. If you are tempted, turn away. If you are in a dark moment, wait for the dawn. One night can unravel a lifetime. A single choice can haunt every sunrise that follows. Do not trade what is real for what is easy. Do not let a moment of fragility steal your strength for 1,000 tomorrows. I am Amanda. I am a woman who fell and broke everything she loved. I am a woman who gathered the sharp pieces and built a smaller, humbler life from them. I am a mother, trying to turn a story of pain into a legacy of grace. This is not a fairy tale. There is no magical forgiveness, no erasing the past. But there is life, stubborn and persistent. And where there is life, there is hope. Her name is Hope. She is my second chance. And I will spend every breath I have to be worthy of her. Thank you for listening to my shattered heart. May my pain be a shield for yours. Go, and hold what you love, with honest hands. And never, ever, underestimate the cost of a single, terrible night. Goodbye.